Scatchard Studios in Huntington, New York. It's Sports Talk New York with your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Cardboard Memories, Clearview, Long Island, the law firm of Decolator, Cohen, and DePrisco, the Phoenix Tube Company, PIMS Incorporated, fueling brand performance for 30 years, Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, and Soho Table Hockey. Here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday evening to you, Mark Roseman. Brett Topel sitting in AJ's chair. AJ on the phone. He's doing his, duty as a good citizen. He came in contact.
Well, let's not go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not being Kyrie Irving. Let's just say that. Okay. So he's doing good. But he is on the air with us as well. Right now, it's time for the Major League Baseball Report with John Coppinger, sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stamell, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs. He's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty, integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. Cardboard Memories always buying collections large and small. Let Cardboard Memories run your next charity fundraising auction. Call them to find out how they can help your organization at no cost. Cardboard Memories is located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York. Visit them on the web at cardboardmemories.com or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. Okay, John, AJ, and Brett, let's throw it out there. Right now we have a Braves-Astro World Series. Number one, let's go around the room and see if that excites anyone. Doesn't excite me. Brett, you?
Doesn't excite me. I've hated the Astros since 1986, and I've hated the Braves for a lot longer than that. So,
AJ, how about you?
I'm sort of excited. Obviously, it's not the series we all wanted to see, or I would have liked to have seen, but I still think you can see some very good baseball. They're two very, very good teams. And look, in terms of the lesser of two evils of teams you hate, I hate to say I'm rooting the Astros because I'm rooting for Dusty Baker. What I like about both of these teams, what I like about all of the teams in the playoffs, is they're not averse to playing small ball. They do everything you want to see baseball teams do. They hit to the other field. They go against the shift. They advance the runners. They steal bases. It's baseball. I think it's going to be exciting baseball. Look, there are two markets we don't really like or want to see, and I'm sure the Major League Baseball is not happy that it's these two broadcasting networks, the two markets. But I still think there's going to be some very good baseball.
How about you, Johnny?
Excited is probably the wrong word, but I'll say that I'm intrigued about it for many of the reasons that AJ said. Listen, I lived through Yankees-Phillies in 2009. In comparison, Braves-Astros is like if somebody put too much salt on my meatloaf. I'll live with it.
So here's the question I also have. If the Braves should win, all right, Freddie Freeman is a free agent at the end of the World Series. If they win, he's accomplished what he would need, what he probably wants to do in Atlanta. Does it mean it might be easier for him if he gets a better offer than the Braves are willing to give him? Does it make it easier for him to leave?
It's an interesting question. I think it might be. I'm wondering. I've been wondering why they haven't re-signed him at this up till now. He's the face of the franchise next to Ronald Acuna, but he's been their longest standing veteran. I think maybe if he does win the World Series, he could leave. I wonder how many teams out there need a first baseman. But even if you have a first baseman, you should want somebody like Freddie Freeman on your team that can be the face of your franchise and a big bat in the middle of the order. I say it could be, but I'm not 100% convinced of that.
Yeah,
two things that come to mind to me, Mark and John and Brett. First of all, the Braves had a lot of decisions to make. They've gotten there without Acuna, without Ozuna. They've gotten without some key people. They had to fill in a midseason. What do they do in the offseason? Who else do they have as free agents? Yeah, Freddie Freeman is the face of the franchise. I think they make every effort to keep him. But look, what's the competition? You have a team in the Bronx that may be looking for a first baseman. And is that the competition? Will money go there? What does Freeman think about going to the Bronx? So look, I think there are a lot of roster decisions the Braves will have to make. You're right. I think it starts with Freddie Freeman, but I don't think they're lost if they lose Freddie Freeman.
No, I don't think they're lost at all because they've proven that they could patch up the roster without spending a ton of money. They had a couple of years ago when Bryce Harper was a free agent, they had I think a grand total of $20 million or $30 million on the books. They could have actually gone for a Brett Harper type of signing, but that's not what the Braves do. They'll patch up the loose ends. They'll make smart signings. They'll make smart trades like they did in this offseason going after Soler and Duvall and Eddie Rosario. So I wouldn't worry about that. And Jock Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson was huge
but
for
I
them.
think from a fan's relations standpoint, Freddie Freeman's not a guy you want to lose. So I think they'll put a priority on him. But as I always say, there's no such thing as a hometown discount when a player reaches free agency. So if somebody blows Freddie Freeman out of the water with an offer like the Yankees, I think he'll strongly consider it.
Yeah, that's, you know what, I think that will be the Braves' only competition, and I think the Yankees will try and lure him away. The other thing is, before we let you go, John Harper floated something that we actually spoke about, 3 weeks ago, and it's about Brian Sabian and Bruce Bochy. What are you hearing? Is that something that's maybe a little more realistic now than it was 3 weeks ago when we talked about it?
It certainly can be, but listen, the media fueled a lot of the Theo and Billy Beane speculation weeks ago, and that had no chance of happening. Although they do say that Sabian would be intrigued if the Mets go after him. I'm not 100% convinced that the Mets are going to go after him with a hard sell. They certainly could, but I'm hearing that they have their toe in a lot of the waters in terms of getting some guys, some younger guys coming in, and not just one or two, maybe even 3 or 4, and creating a whole new structure and not just hiring a president of baseball operations. So I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Sabian happened, but don't be surprised if they surprise us with something that we had no idea that would happen, like bringing in 3 or 4 guys at once.
All right. Before we let everyone go, let's just go around the room and make predictions. You shouldn't listen to me because I actually had Red Sox versus who did I have? I had Red Sox versus, did I have Braves? I think I did have the Braves.
I think probably the Dodgers.
Oh, right. I did. I had Dodgers. I had Dodgers versus Red Sox. So totally wrong. So I am going to go. Wow, this is tough because you're right. I mean, which team do I like? Wow. I don't want to root for either of them, but again, Dusty might get the nod. But again, Correa with It's My Time, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I think the Braves are more of a throwback. I'm going to pick the Braves in 6. All right, Brett?
All right. So I said I didn't like either team. I agree with AJ. Dusty is definitely going to sway me as far as rooting for the Astros. I have a personal history with Dusty, a good one. So I would love to see him get a ring. I don't necessarily want to see Altuve and Correa celebrating, but I guess it's the price you pay. I'm going to say Astros in 6.
Okay. AJ?
As when the playoffs started, I had the Astros in the World Series. I'm going to stick with that. I think the Braves are a good team. I think it's going to boil down to starting pitcher, not openers. But I think the Astros can prevail. But it's going to take them 7.
All right. And John?
Every baseball instinct I have tells me that the Astros are going to win this one in a short series. They hit better against left-handed pitching than the Braves do, at least this season. And their starting pitching has started to come around in the last half of the Red Sox series. Now, that said, my baseball instincts also told me that the Dodgers and the Red Sox were going to be in the World Series. So I am going to go opposite day, and I'm going to say Atlanta in 7. And I honestly think that they have a shot to do it.
He takes the George Costanza route and goes opposite. Love it. All right, John, we'll speak to you next week as this World Series moves on. And John Carpenter heard here each and every week with the Cardboard Memories Major League Baseball report. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, former NHL star Dave Scatchard joins us. So keep it tuned right here to Sports Talk New York.
Do you own a business? When is the last time you actually had a visit from or even spoke with your insurance representative? Did your current insurance agency sell to another firm or maybe merge, leaving you without the attention you deserve? Prince Associates is a provider of commercial insurance nationwide and represents some of the finest insurance carriers in the industry. Prince Associates has been representing commercial clients since 1965, and we continue to grow and offer our personal services in a competitive and ever-changing market. If you want back the insurance relationship you deserve, reach out to us, 516-822-6550. That's area code 516-822-6550. And ask for Leith or Craig, or find us on the web at www.princeins.com.
And welcome back to 365 Sportscast, Sports Talk New York. Mark Roseman, Brett Topel sitting in AJ seat, AJ Carter, bouncing in and out here. We're just waiting to get Dave Scatchard on the line. So, Brett, why don't you tell us who's going to be on your show tonight so people can tune in afterwards?
Yeah, first of all, it's always an honor to sit in on Sports Talk New York. I remember the days we used to do that in the other studio.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for BT Talks Baseball tonight. I'm going to have your friend and mine, author Eric Sherman, who is great. We're going to talk about his books. We're going to talk about the state of baseball, and we're going to have a good conversation with Eric.
Awesome. So everyone should definitely keep it tuned right here all night long. Brett Topel with BT Talks Baseball follows us right afterwards. But joining us now is a man who was the 42nd overall pick of the Vancouver Canucks in the 1994 NHL draft. He would play 659 games in the NHL with the Vancouver Canucks, New York Islanders, Boston Bruins, Phoenix Coyotes, Nashville Predators, and St. Louis Blues. But 14 years in the league took its toll on him, and after his fifth concussion left him with slurred speech, headaches, and traumatic brain injuries, he embarked on a journey around the world to restore his health and reinvent his life. He shares that journey in an amazing new book, The Comeback: My Journey Through Heaven and Hell. It is a pleasure to welcome Dave Scatchard to Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, what's going on, Phyllis?
Nothing much. You know, it's interesting because I've written 8 books, and I realize how personal the dedication of a book can be. Your dedication reads as follows. This is dedicated to my dad, a man who allowed me to chase my dreams fearlessly and who I always knew believed in me, a man with wisdom and someone who had a direct connection to the truth, a man who would help anyone, anytime, because that was the fabric that he was made of. He was my hero, my friend, and my idol. I love you, Dad. I miss you, and I hope you're having fun in heaven. P.S. Give God a hug for me. So also the book, you realize the relationship you have with your dad when you talk about him and all the things he did. But what were some of the main things that your dad did that showed you that he had the confidence in you? And how did that manifest you into being an NHL player?
Yeah, geez, you get me emotional as I'm just thinking about him. He was such a special human being, and it wasn't just me that he gave hope to. He gave hope to everyone that he met, and he had the unique ability to see the best in people and to see their potential. He coached me every single year of my NHL career, my minor hockey career, all the way up, except for 1 year when we moved. He had a physical education teaching degree, but he ended up working in the coal mines in Alberta. So he was a natural teacher. But at his funeral, we had dozens and dozens of testimonies from people that shared what my dad meant to them and what kind of person he was and how he believed in them more than they believed in themselves. And he got more out of them as players, as young men, as people. And he had the unique ability to draw the best out of people because he could see something that they couldn't see in themselves. And, having him be my dad, it was unique at the funeral because there were so many amazing stories that people shared that I had no idea about. But so many times guys said, like, I wish your dad was my dad. Like he was that important to me in my life. And thank you for sharing your dad with me. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I'm lucky that I did get 72 years with him, and he did pass much earlier than anybody anticipated. But that was his time, and he was a wonderful human, and I just hope that I can walk in his shoes moving forward.
Yeah, and you do pay a great tribute to him the way you describe him in the book. Your love for hockey starts at a very early age, and like for Islander fans that are complaining that they used to take them 15 minutes to get to Nassau Coliseum, and now it's going to take them 35 minutes to get to UBS, or Ranger fans who were saying, if I don't catch a train at 9:20, it's going to take me, an hour and a half to get home. Your treks to watch an NHL game included occasional 3-hour drives to Edmonton and back the same night, even if you had school the next day. But those were the Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, Grant Fuhr, Andy Moog, Kevin Lowe Oilers. What did those marathon trips mean, not only to watching the game and your love of hockey, but those 6-hour trips with your dad?
Man, we didn't get to go to a lot of games. It was, like I said, we didn't have a lot of money. We couldn't afford hotel rooms or anything. So we would just drive back, or there's a story in the book where we sleep in our truck outside of the arena before a game when I was trying out for a team.
Medicine Hat,
You know,
right?
yeah. So like, you know, that wasn't. I don't know. It just seemed like I just thought everybody did that. And you know, my dad was my best buddy, so we never really butted heads. He was a real hard ass, meaning like he had really high standards, and he was almost like a army dad with what he expected. But as long as like he was fair, he never over pushed, and he never demanded too much. He just believed in you so much that if you slacked or were lazy, you know, that's when you probably have a conversation. But for the most part, he let me do whatever I wanted. He told me I could be anything I wanted to be. And he just said, I just want you to like, you know, outwork everybody. And as long as you're trying your hardest, that's all I want as a dad. And, you know, I've tried to continue that with my kids, and for some reason, I don't think they quite have the internal drive that I was born with, but you know, it doesn't mean I love them any less. It's just interesting to think back. And actually, the truth is, after my kids have read my book, I've noticed a much harder work ethic in them, and that's a beautiful byproduct that I wasn't expecting, for sure.
Wow. You know, and your dad also proves his total confidence in you. And I love this story. It's about how your junior career gets started. There wasn't a draft for juniors back then. They could reserve certain players by listing them. You go to camp, as you mentioned, sleeping in the car for Medicine Hat. And then they just said they didn't think you were a good fit. And there was another opening somewhere else. Can you pick up that story and tell us, you know, what confidence your dad had you in as a 15 in something other than hockey?
I'm telling you, like the way things were and the way things are nowadays are a little different. And, you know, I'm only 45, but my dad grew up on the farms in Alberta, and he was probably driving trucks and tractors since he was like 12 years old. Like that's just the kind of lifestyle he had. And we were at a training camp in Medicine Hat, and I had a great game. I think I had 2 or 3 goals, and like, you know, we knew that Portland was interested in us, and we knew that Medicine Hat was interested in us, and they were kind of the same weekend. Now, the only way that I could do all of Portland's camp was to drive through the night to get there by the morning. But the problem was like we were in Medicine Hat and we wanted to show our stuff for at least a game or two. And my dad said, hey, like, what do you guys think? Are you going to list Dave? Like, are you going to protect him? And they're like, well, it's too early to tell. Like, you know, and my dad's like, what do you mean? He just scored 3 goals. Like, if you're not going to do it here, we're going to head to Portland or to Sherwood Park, Alberta, where Portland's camp is. And they just kind of let us go. They didn't really fight for me. So we started driving, and my dad just I saw him kept like shaking his head, and he was trying to drink coffee. And like, this is, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something like that. It was after a game. And we had a 6-hour drive ahead of us to get there. And I think my first ice session was at like 7 or 8 in the morning. And he just looked at me and he goes, hey, bud, he goes, if we're going to get there on time, like, you got to drive. He's like, I'm falling asleep at the wheel. Like, you got to just drive. And I was like, Dad, I don't know how to drive. he's like, listen, just point the car down the middle of the road and have one tire on each side of the yellow line. And this is like the prairies in Alberta where the road doesn't bend for about, 3 hours. And he's like, if you see any farm trucks or any tractors for some reason out here in the middle of the night, just pull over on the side of the road and let them go by. So, if anybody knows, when you first start driving, like you kind of oversteer, like you overcompensate. It's like, so I was weaving back and forth across the road for the first 5 or 10 minutes. Thankfully, no cars were coming. And I kept thinking my dad's just going to reach over and with his left hand and just straighten out the wheel because he's in the passenger side now. And he never did. And there were a couple of times where I'm heading right for the ditch and I'm looking at him and he's just sound asleep. Like a little baby. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out these brakes. I got to figure out the gas. And I was literally driving. And by the time, I'd say 30, 40 minutes in, I kind of sort of get the hang of it. And I was like, all right, let me just try to stay on my side of the road. And that was just what we did. And I don't know how many hours I drove. It was a few hours. And then we started to pull into the city of Sherwood Park in Edmonton, Alberta, where there was like lots of traffic and the sun starts to come up. And I'm like, Dad, wake up, buddy. Like, I'm not driving in this, I'm not driving in the city. And I pulled over. He's like, oh, good job, buddy. And then like, he just takes over.
That is awesome.
So, yeah, man, we had so many crazy stories like that. And there were a couple stories I didn't get to put in the book just because we wanted to kind of keep it concise. But I remember driving through some of the snowiest conditions you've ever seen. And one time we were driving to this town, I think it was called Drayton Valley or something, and the cars were spinning down the middle of the road because there was so much ice, and there was like a ditch on each side and a little hillside on one side. And this other farm truck is coming towards us, and we both are spinning like a helicopter, blade towards each other. And I just closed my eyes and braced for impact, and somehow we were rotating at the perfect like way where we never struck each other. That guy kind of slid a little bit into the ditch and whatever, but I saw him like, putting the pedal to the metal, and he kind of scampered out, and we just ended up backwards in the middle of the road on the other side of the guy, and we never hit. And like, I looked at him, my dad looked at me, and we're just like, oh my goodness, like that was crazy. Like there were so many road trips that we took that were like pretty far drives, and it's a miracle we never really had any major issues, but that was just the way of life for us. We had a really strong small town team, and we got kicked out of our league because we were beating teams like 20-0 and stuff. So nobody wanted to play us. So then we had to go play all these exhibition games all over Alberta. And my dad would like call teams and be like, hey, can we drive to your town and play you guys? Because my kids don't have anybody to play. And that was like one of the years that we played. So
yeah.
Anyways,
you even talk about renting out the where the Oilers played, which was a great story too. You start getting scouted, and it's obvious you're going to be drafted. And I'm pretty sure that your answer to George McPhee, who was then the assistant GM of Vancouver, is probably the reason why the Canucks chose you. The question he asked you was about playing in the minors, and you gave him an answer, and he followed up with, but how long would you want to play there? Could you tell our audience what your answer to him was and what his reaction was?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like I had 9 interviews at the draft. Everyone asked all different questions, and there's some weird things too. I don't know if I put this in the book, but like I remember like, and this would not fly in 2021, but I remember like a couple of them, they would have us like take off our shirts and stuff, and they were like, and sometimes like our pants, and they'd claim that they were looking for like scars or surgeries that like weren't in our bios, you know what I mean? Like, because they were going to draft us, they wanted to make sure that we weren't like had secret injuries or something. I don't know. It was weird, but one of the things we did was I had an interview with George, and he said, Dave, we really, really think you have potential, but you're kind of rough around the edges. If we did draft you and you had to go play in the minor leagues, like, what would you think about that? And I'm like, well, it's part of the learning process. The minor leagues are better than juniors, so like that's not bad. And he goes, okay, but like let's just say I'd stay there for a while. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'd just stay there. And he's like, well, like what if you had to stay there for like a few years? Like how long would you stay before you go to like Russia or Europe and leave? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, like, I want to play in the NHL. I don't want to play in Russia or Europe. Like if the minor leagues is the way that I got to get to the NHL and I got to play 10 years there and figure out how to become an NHL player, then that's what I'll do. Like I'm all in on this. And he just smiled and he looked at me. He goes, I've interviewed a lot of guys today, but he's like, that's the best answer I've had today. And he goes, oh, by the way, I don't know if you know, but you finished first in the Central Scouting Fitness Testing, which is like the NFL Combine, if anybody doesn't know what that is. And, he goes, we can't teach people how to be athletes. We could teach them how to play hockey, though. And that was a really big compliment because I actually didn't know the results. You just work your butt off, and I could tell I was doing good because at the fitness testing and, everyone's standing around watching, but like I didn't know how good until he told me that. So that was pretty cool.
The book then takes us through your NHL journey, and when you see it on paper, it takes a different meaning. I try to notate all the injuries. I'm not sure I got them all, but let's give it a try. 12 broken noses, broken bones in your face and knuckles, hands, forearms, and both your knees, 3 shoulder surgeries, 3 ankle surgery, and of course, the injury that ended it all for you was a 5th concussion, which caused some micro hemorrhaging in your brain. How difficult was it, putting all that down on paper and kind of having to relive every one of those injuries?
Well, in a way, it was kind of shocking because I started looking at it. I'm like, well, and you missed a few, like broken orbital bone, my front teeth knocked out. I remember broken ribs I was playing with. People don't know that. Like, it's not like it's the announcers like, yeah, Dave's playing with 3 broken ribs right now. And, like, nobody knows what the players are going through. And I think I did put this in the book that, like, probably 85% of the games that NHL guys are playing, like, there's something sore. Like your groin muscles, your back, your shoulders, your feet from blocking shots. Like, you're never really feeling like, oh yeah, I feel incredible today. Like, that doesn't really happen very often. So to go through, like, I just saw your Zdeno Chara is playing his 22nd year or 20. I don't know. He's getting 1,600 NHL games. He's like 3rd or 4th on the list of all time. He could have the most NHL games played for defenseman this year. And Z, he plays a physical game. Like, people are running into him. He's running into people. He's blocking shots. He's doing whatever he can. And to be able to play for 20-something years like that, it takes a special human being to be able to, like, fight through those injuries. And you look at guys like this guy in Florida, Keith Yandel. I think he's played like 900 games straight or some Iron Man streak that's insane. Like, I know Yand, he's not this big, strong, like, I mean, he's obviously a sick athlete and everything like that. But if you looked at him on paper, you're like, how do you play against these monsters every day and, like, not get hurt and stay healthy and just have good luck and, like, all these things? It's really incredible. And I'm proud to be an NHLer. I'm really proud to be an alumni of these people and this group. And, I'm not biased because I'm a hockey player, but, like, if you ask any of the trainers at, like, Athletes Performance here in Scottsdale or, like, the media, they'll often say, like, my hockey guys are our favorite guys. Like, you guys are pretty easygoing and you're all pretty good dudes. And we're just down to earth humans. And I'm really proud to be able to share the book and tell a little bit behind the scenes on, what the NHL is like and what's really going on behind the scenes. And the feedback's just been incredible. I had a lady reach out to me the other day and buy 50 books for everyone she knew. She's like, you got to get this message out. It's so good. It's inspirational. It's motivational. And there's a lot of, like, learning and teaching in it, which is really cool. So, yeah, man, it's really an honor to be able to share my story. And I didn't think I'd be able to finish it. It was so difficult to do. And I never stopped, like, kind of like my career. I just kept going and trying to figure out a way to get it out there and compress 45 years of my life into 260 pages. And I have people that, like, I did a podcast. These guys flew into Arizona to come do a podcast at my house. And they're like, Dave, we don't read books. Like, neither one of us. We're not book readers. And both of us read this book in 2 days. They're like, it was freaking awesome. I'm like, wow, cool. Like, thanks, So we made Amazon bestseller list right away. So that was exciting. So, yeah, man, it's just a little fun thing. And I'm excited about where it's going to take us for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because anyone that's listened to our show over the last 16, 17 years knows that we must have mentioned that 100 times, that the NHL players, and when you get to cover them, they're the best, of any sport. They are down to earth. And we also, we've done shows just trying to figure out why, and we think it's a lot because, like you said, those 3-hour rides with your dad to rinks and the team bonding, sitting next to your line mates and just the closeness it does. But the book is absolutely fantastic. One of the stories, the story about your 5th concussion and your near death experience is very emotional, especially the part about your son Sawyer. Can you share that with our audience before we let you go?
Well, you're trying to get me to cry? Well, you're going to have to get the book to get the whole story. But I literally crossed over to the other side during my 5th concussion. I left my body. I had a meeting with God. And this is coming from somebody who didn't go to church as a kid. I didn't have religion in my life or anything, but this was a real meeting. And I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but it was the most incredible experience of my life. And I ended up having a little bit of dialogue back and forth. And as I'm walking with the light and God, I have this flash and I see my littlest son, Sawyer, who was 1 or 2 at the time, throw himself on my casket as the gravedigger was slowly lowering it in, and he got hit with some dirt that they were shoveling onto the casket. And my daughter was crying, and my other son was crying, my wife was crying, and I just had this momentary flash of this vision, and I stopped. And I said to God, I said, like, can I go back? And the message back to me was, well, you can, but you don't have to. You're home. It's okay. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I might have to go back. It's like, well, I'll take care of them. Everything's going to be okay. Really loving, almost a parental type of energy. And anyways, this goes on and on. I finally decide my kids can't grow up without a dad, and I decide to come back. And before I leave, I say, what do you want me to do? Like, now that I know that you're real, do you want me to sell all my stuff and go on a mission trip and help people? Like, what do you want me to do? And there were 2 things. And in a loving way, it was like, I want you to take this love and light that you feel here, and I want you to share it with each person that you come across, like they're your brother or your sister. Just love on them. I'm like, that's it? Like, yeah, very simple message, right? A message that all of us could follow. And then right before I'm about to come back, I said, is there anything else? And the message to me was, I want you to share this story. So the first part, I kept my word, and I'm a lover of people. I run a coaching business now. I help people in their business, in their life. It's a very, very incredible coaching company that we run here. But I didn't share my story until now. And it took me 10 years to be brave enough to share it like completely and honestly and openly with people, because I was a little bit afraid of being judged or how people would react. And the story's bigger than me. It's not my story. I have no choice. I must share the story. So I did. And to be completely 1,000% honest, there's been questions that people have had, but not one negative comment or any haters or anything. It's not like I'm out there like, I don't have an agenda. I'm just telling what happened to me. And then when I came back, I really suffered for 3 years, like badly. I was in really terrible shape. I was taking Alzheimer's medicine because I had no memory. I had difficulty walking, difficulty speaking. I went into hiding. I just hid in my house. I was drinking myself to sleep. I was on all these pain medications and sleeping medications and concentration medication. It was terrible. The Mayo Clinic was just trying everything they could for me. And then at that point, they just said, Dave, we're sorry, but like, we don't have any more protocols to run with you. Like, you're just going to be permanently disabled. Like, that's just how your life is going to be. And I was in shock. And I'm like 35 or 36 years old. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I can't keep going like this for another 40, 50 years. I thought you guys were going to fix me. They're like, sorry, bud. Like, we've done everything we can for you. And I just started crying in my car, and I didn't want to tell my wife what they said. I didn't want to tell anybody, and I didn't want to like accept their diagnosis at all. And anyways, I don't want to spoil the whole book, but I go on this crazy journey around the world, and I'm working with guys like Tony Robbins, and Tony's introducing me to these energy guys and monks and healers and shaman and grandmasters. And I would just start like, writing checks to whoever could start to help me. And I would just go down the rabbit hole with those people. And I discovered all these incredible emotional and psychological and conscious based techniques and tools that I use now in my coaching business. And it's truly magical and so nice to be able to show other people now how to do it and how to get out of the pit when you get stuck down there. Because I was down there for a long time, and I was kind of getting pretty hopeless and desperate. So
it's absolutely amazing. And, the spiritual healing has been around for centuries. And when you lay it out and you see what it's done for you, it just, it's eye opening. And, the message of love, especially now, the book is the perfect timing, because there's so much, division in this country. It's such an inspirational and uplifting book. Where's the best place for people to get it?
The easiest for everyone is to go to Amazon. And it's called The Comeback: My Journey Through Heaven and Hell. We do have a website, allstarcoaching.com, and we've got a little book links in there too. But for just, if you're just looking for the book, go to Amazon. It's probably just the fastest and easiest for everybody there. But yeah, man, I'm grateful for the support and the kind words, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And it's very common what you're saying, and it's beyond what I thought it would be. And I'm really, truly grateful.
Awesome, Dave. Thanks so much. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, brother. God bless.
You got it. Dave Scatchard, former NHL player, author of The Comeback. We'll be back with more hockey and Russ Cohn right after this.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
And welcome back to 365 Sportscast Network and Sports Talk New York. I just love that music from the Phoenix Tube Company commercial. It's time now with the NHL Report with the hardest working man in hockey, Russ Cohn. It's sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with the rod hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey tables. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old tabletop games, designed a whole new board for the future. Handcrafted with designer wood, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbing walls. This is a tabletop hockey game that players age 8 to 80 can enjoy. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Visit SohoTableHockey.com to learn more. Start your order on a custom game. You can choose your wood, a center ice logo, and even the team's matchups. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love Soho Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. All right, Russ, what I want to start with right off the bat is, you look at the three local teams, and it's a kind of a mixed bag. But what's interesting about this is the New York Rangers had a great game, great comeback the other day. had a great overtime win against Toronto. But you look at, the games they've lost, one overtime loss and one regulation loss. Those are to two teams, Washington and Dallas, that have winning records. All the remaining 4 games that they won are against teams with losing records. The New York Islanders, the 2 teams they've beaten, I don't believe even have a win yet. I think they're winless in like 9 games. But yet they're like 500. And the Devils the teams they've beaten have winning records. So, I know all of us look at records, but right now, if you look at the 3 local teams, which team do you think has played the best? Forget about record, but which team do you think has played the best thus far, and why?
I mean, I really kind of think it's the Rangers. I think even Barry Trotz is not thrilled with the way his team is playing. I think the Rangers 5-on-5 are playing well. I think their power play is still a little off because they've got 2 guys that really want the puck in Zibanejad and Panarin, and I don't know if they've been able to figure out how to work that out yet. They did last year, but now they have a new coach. But guys like Chris Kreider are off to a great start, like maybe the best start of his career. So for a lot of fans that were dumping on him, that's a bad contract, they're completely wrong. I think defense is playing pretty good. Keandre Miller, blocked 6 shots the other night. That was a career high. There's a lot of good things, and Shesterkin's playing the best hockey of his NHL career too. He's the best goalie of all the teams in the East right now. So that's another big reason. He can cover up a lot of flaws.
Russ, you take a look at the Islanders. We talked about this before. They're starting the season as road warriors. It's only 3 games in. But can you see any effect of them, not having had a home game yet and not being able to look forward to one?
Yeah, I think the effect is if they were at home, I would think Semyon Varlamov would be at least skating at home with the team. And I have to go to that because it's a big thing not having him. He is their number 1. And because they're on this road trip and he has no place to go other than, their practice facility, with nobody there, that's not really going to help him get to NHL speed. So I think that hurts him. I think the not willing to play Corey Schneider will hurt them. I think the fact that their scoring is not quite there yet is hurting them. And so I think the age that they added on the team too, when you're starting a season on the road, we're noticing a lot of teams when they're starting the season, the younger players seem to really get out of the gate quick and the older players don't. And I think that's another factor for them.
So when does it get late early?
It doesn't get late early for them because they have a massive string of home games and they still will get Varlamov back at some point and will get back on track. It's just, no matter what happens in this road trip, it just means maybe they won't win their division, but they're going to make the playoffs. So it's not an issue of that.
Yeah, they just need to be 500 or even one game under 500 on this trip, and they'll be fine. And I think they'll get their stuff righted. 2 things: Shesterkin has been out of his unbelievable great.
Yeah.
And the Rangers did something that they've never done in their franchise history, coming back from a 2-goal or more deficit with 6 minutes left in a game. They scored those 3 goals, first time in franchise history, which is pretty amazing. It's some good hockey. The Sabres off to an unbelievable start as well. So it's going to be fun, and you'll be here each week.
The Panthers are the best team, though.
Yep,
I just have to say that.
Yes, you know what? The Blues look pretty good as well. I like what the St. Louis Blues look like too. So, and we'll talk about that as well. Russ Cohen here each and every week with the NHL Report. We're going to take a quick break. We'll on the other side, we got AJ's Sunday Papers. We'll talk a little, hopefully very little NFL football. The Jets just, wow. I'm thinking, how there's the cancel, culture. I'm thinking of canceling the Jets because I just can't take it anymore. They're insulting to everybody. So we'll take a break. On the other side, we'll have AJ and Sunday Papers. So keep it tuned right here. If you're a company looking to increase your visibility to make sure your promotional materials get packaged in the most attractive way and distributed most efficiently, then you need to call in PIMS. Whether you're launching a new product and need to assemble customized influencer packages or looking for a more efficient way to manage your inventory and collateral, PIMS involvement helps maximize the impact of your brand's performance. For more than 30 years, PIMS has been helping companies get their message out to the right people, offering personalized distribution services and full-scale inventory management solutions. PIMS works its magic on 3 continents, backed by 350,000 square feet of warehouse space. If you're looking for experience, PIMS is it. They've shipped more than 13 million packages and elevated more than 8,000 brands. Want to know more? Check them out on the web, pimsinc.com. That's PIMSINC.com, and read testimonials from their satisfied clients. That's PIMS, the first name in marketing support.
You can read it in the Sunday papers. Read it in the Sunday papers.
You know, I'm not sure if people tune in to hear AJ's Sunday papers or if they tune in just to find out if they listen to Joe Jackson. So Sunday papers, Joe Jackson into AJ's weird story of the week. What do you got, AJ? AJ, you there? I think we might have lost AJ.
Do you think, Mark, he's still upset about the fact that I'm sitting in his seat?
Maybe. AJ, are you there? Okay, so AJ's Sunday papers are not there, but Jay, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
There you go. All right, AJ, give us your Sunday papers.
You were gone for a while, and I was shouting out, and I don't know what happened to you.
All right, we're here now.
So tonight we're talking about what's the value of a pair of used sneakers, and we have two pairs to talk about. First of all, Michael Jordan's. Last week's just auctioned off the first pair of sneakers that Michael Jordan ever wore in the NBA in 1984. They just went for just under $1.5 million. But if you're Andy Murray, the value of pairs of used sneakers is priceless. A couple of weeks ago, Andy Murray was playing in a tournament, and he took his sneakers, which were smelly, and to air them out, for some reason, just left them under his car overnight. And when he got back in the morning, they were gone. And he went into a panic. Why? Because he had tied in the shoelace his wedding ring around the sneakers. And he just, went crazy, put an alert out because his wife was going to kill him. Good news, the sneakers turned up, the wedding ring was there. Now he's learned to go and buy odor eaters. So that's the question. How much are a pair of used sneakers worth?
Wow. All right. I don't even know where to go with that one. So we'll just talk, we'll go to Jay and we'll talk about, how much is a good defense worth these days, because the New York Jets certainly don't have it. 54 points. It boggles the mind. And you take a look at Mac Jones and it's funny. You take a look at all these different quarterbacks the Jets have, and you look at New England and all right, let's take the GOAT out of it. But whoever, Belichick has had, he develops a system. Mac Jones is not a great quarterback, but his system makes him a great quarterback. What did you see out of the Patriots and the way they manage Mac Jones as compared to the Jets? And unfortunately, their quarterback got injured, and the way the Jets manage their young quarterbacks.
Well, it's been a unique perspective to see Mac Jones, because I was able to see him, watching him pretty closely against the Buccaneers a couple weeks ago. And it seemed like Bill Belichick did a really good job early on in the season, not putting too much on his plate, keeping the throw short. But you've seen the last couple of weeks, man, they're starting to let off the reins a little bit. And Mac Jones is making those defense plays, making the defense pay. And listen, there's a reason why Belichick drafted him in the first round. The relationship with Nick Saban isn't lost on anybody. They knew that he could come in and, just baby steps, a little bit more. The Jets, to me, they were screwed right from the start, man. This was just one of those games where if you're a rookie quarterback going against a Belichick defense, you're going to be in trouble. And then nobody wanted to see Mike White in that game, but unfortunately that's what happened with Jets Nation. I think the Patriots just scored again, guys.
Jay, looking ahead, it looks as if in the MRIs tomorrow that Zach Wilson may be out a few weeks, and maybe how many weeks depends on what the Jets do. But should they make a phone call? At what point do they make a phone call to Cam Newton?
I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the best option, because to me, if I'm the Jets and I'm going with Cam Newton, you have to totally change your offense. Cam Newton is a very specific type quarterback. He's going to be running the football, maybe not as much as he did in his MVP season with the Panthers. I know that's kind of like the hot name, and everybody says, go out there. But, man, you have to change your offense so much with Cam Newton as your quarterback, and there's no guarantee that he's going to be a guy that's going to be really, good enough to play. I know it's kind of weird to say that against a guy like Mike White, but if he was that good, then the Patriots probably would have went with him and it would have Mac Jones at least sit behind him at least 6 or 7 games. He lost that competition by a mile from what I heard.
So who's out there you think the Jets might want to look at?
Oh, man, that's a tough call. And then I think maybe the one guy you look at is maybe a Nick Foles. he's just kind of sitting there. He's actually in the building I'm here at the Bucs game right now, and he's kind of just sitting over here, twiddling his thumbs. To me, that's a much better option. If I'm the Jets, to go get a guy like Nick Foles who can play right away. He can push the ball down the field a little bit better than Cam Newton. That's the one guy I'd look at.
Yeah, right now Tampa Bay 35-3 over Chicago. There's a lot of bad football being played. The Giants win today 25-3. Some of these offenses are just really, really bad. Big news also is Mahomes is injured. What's the status on Pat Mahomes? What have you heard after the game?
It did not look good, and you know what? The Giants have a big Monday night showdown with the Chiefs, and you know what? The last couple of weeks we've been talking about this down here a lot. This Chiefs defense, man, they just do not look like they can stop a nosebleed right now. And it's kind of a joke down here in Tampa now that the Buccaneers broke the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. And my goodness, man, you look at how they're playing. And if Mahomes isn't in there, they don't look right defensively. And now if he's going to be out, the Giants might have a pretty darn good shot to make it 2 in a row. Who knows?
Unbelievable. The Cardinals up 24-5. I mean, these scores are like, when I heard the score of the Giant game when it was 5-3, I was wondering who got the single to drive in the 2 runs.
The Cardinals are up after a start in which, among other things, Kyler Murray fumbled in the end zone for a safety.
Right.
And they still came back on that.
Yep. All right, Jay, we'll speak to you next week. Jay Retcher here, heard each and every week with the NFL Report. We'll take a break on the other side. We'll round out the show with Chaim Tauber and the NBA Report, so keep it tuned right here.
Decolator Cohen and DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York. It's time now for the Capco NBA Report with Chaim Tauber. It's fall, so before you know it, Christmas and the winter's going to be here. So it's time to get those windows and doors ready. You want to either take out your screen doors and put in your storm doors. The company that can help you out for sure is Clearview Long Island. Call them at 631-440-1100. Visit them on the web at clearviewlongisland.com and mention Sports Talk New York for a free estimate. All right, Chaim, the bottom line is you take a look, and this also boggles the mind. The great shooting of the 3-pointers that the Knicks made the other night and that huge win over Orlando extended the franchise longest season open unbeaten streak in almost a decade. And that unbeaten streak is 2. That tells you all you need to know about the Knicks past couple of decades. But what have you noticed about this Knicks team that's just forget about Spike Lee's wardrobe, but this is a fun team to watch. What makes this team so fun to watch?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, this is a New York team. This is a James Dolan team. The last time there was a New York team that was essentially homegrown, that was young, that was on the rise, that was on the upswing, and that was playing anything even remotely like a modern brand of basketball was the early 90s, I guess. It just doesn't exist. For the Knicks to have a team with R.J. Barrett and Obi Toppin being major contributors, Emmanuel quickly being able to come off the bench, Julius Randle, who, although he's not a Knick, he was certainly a Knick developmental piece, and that these are guys who, kind of an homage to the 90s Knicks, play hard every night. If they're behind, they're coming back and they're fighting for it. That there isn't a single dominant superstar. There isn't a Patrick Ewing on this team. Julius Randle's the guy. Kemba Walker is supposed to be the guy, but Kemba Walker hasn't taken over any games. It's been a Derrick Rose. It's been 3-point shooting. It's been Evan Fournier on nights. This is a team where they're moving the ball, they're moving their feet on defense, and it's a bunch of young kids who Knicks fans have actually grown accustomed to. The Mitchell Robinsons and those guys, and being able to see grow up in the blue and orange, and they're starting to contribute. And for a team that forever has been, top heavy and Amari Stoudemire, or Carmelo Anthony, and a Prayer. This is a team with depth, and that's an odd position for Knicks fans to find themselves in.
Well, looking ahead, though, you mentioned one thing quickly before we have to go, is they're playing hard now. Does the fact that they're young and the key players are young help them go through the grind of the season and not tire out so they get last when they get to the playoffs?
I mean, to an extent, it's tough to say that 2 games into the season. Tom Thibodeau has a history of grinding down players. Julius Randle made it through the season unscathed, which was a testament to him. But came playoff time, these guys did wear down a little bit. There is more depth. There are more rotation pieces. There are more toys for Tom Thibodeau to tinker with. That was some alliteration.
Wow.
And
toys for Tom Thibodeau to tinker with. I love it. Wow.
And on that note.
Absolutely. All right. We'll go and watch Tom Thibodeau's toys tonight. All right. We'll speak to you next week. I am Tauber, heard each and every week. And we didn't even do anything with Obi Toppin. We could have added that in there too. All right. We'll see everyone next week. But make sure you stay right here because got BT Talks Baseball. BT, quickly, who's on your show again tonight?
Oh, the great Eric Sherman,
the best,
one of the best there are, and I'm going to speak to him not only about his most recent book with the Boston Red Sox, but about his new book about Fernando Valenzuela.
Awesome. So just keep it right here all night and until about 10:40 tonight, and then I think there's a show that's pretty good that you might want to tune into. All right, we'll see everyone next week, but like I said, keep it tuned right here for BT Talks Baseball next.